Frodo and the Missing Ring, a tale of epic realization. The fires of Mount Doom roared, their blistering heat pressing against Frodo as he stood on the precipice. This was it, the end of the journey. The ring's malevolent weight burned against his soul, but he was so close now. One small act, and the world would be free of its terrible power forever. "Go on, Mr. Frodo." Sam's voice trembled with desperate hope. His eyes glistened with tears. "It's time. Just toss it in, and it'll all be over." "Don't just toss it, Frodo," Gandalf interjected, his tone sharp with irritation. "Heave it, hurl it, fling it into the fire, whatever gets the job done. Or are we waiting for Sauron to send a personal invitation?" "I'm doing it," Frodo snapped, his voice cracking under the pressure. He reached into his pocket, his fingers fumbling against fabric. Then he checked the other pocket. His breath caught. The ring wasn't there. A cold sweat broke over him as panic set in. He patted himself down frantically, but there was no mistaking it. The one ring, the most dangerous object in existence, was nowhere to be found. Sam frowned. "What's wrong, Mr. Frodo?" Frodo stammered, his voice barely a whisper. "I don't have it." There was a long, terrible silence. "You don't have it," Gandalf repeated flatly, as though he hadn't heard correctly. His eyes narrowed. "You're joking? Please tell me you're joking. Because if you're not, Frodo Baggins, I may just step into that lava myself and save Middle-earth the trouble of dealing with your brilliant leadership skills." I must have." Frodo's voice faltered as the truth hit him like a boulder. He remembered it clearly now. The ring, sitting innocently on the kitchen table back in Bag End. He had taken it off during breakfast while debating what to pack for the journey. Somehow, in the rush to leave, he'd forgotten it. Sam's jaw dropped. "You're saying you left the ring back at home?" "Not just back at home," Gandalf interjected, his voice dripping with sarcasm. No. Frodo here didn't merely forget the ring. He left it on his kitchen table, presumably nestled between a plate of buttered scones and a half-empty jar of jam. What a strategic genius!" He threw up his hands. "Why didn't I think of that? Clearly, we could have just invited Sauron over for elevenses and handed it at him directly." "I didn't mean to," Frodo protested, his face burning with shame. "It was a mistake." "Oh, of course," Gandalf said, his voice saccharine. "Because accidentally forgetting to bring the most important artifact in the history of Middle-earth on your quest to destroy it is just a little oopsie anyone could make. No big deal." I'll fix it," Frodo blurted out, grasping at straws. "I mean, it's fine. I already threw it in. Just now." Gandalf froze, staring at Frodo. "You what? I threw it in," Frodo repeated, his voice climbing an octave. "You didn't see because I did it so fast. You know, quick toss, in and out. No drama." He gestured vaguely toward the fiery pit. "It's gone," Sam blinked. "Really? You threw it in?" "Yes," Frodo said, nodding furiously. "The ring is destroyed. Middle-earth is safe. Can we go now?" Gandalf's piercing gaze lingered on Frodo. For a moment, Frodo was sure he'd been caught. But then Gandalf straightened, brushing dust off his robes. "Well, that's a relief." His voice was suspiciously dry, but he didn't press further. "You certainly know how to keep us on edge, Frodo. First all the hesitation, then the fastest toss this side of Gondor. You've got a real flair for drama." Sam sighed with relief, his shoulders sagging. "I knew you'd do it, Mr. Frodo. I knew you would." "Of course he did," Gandalf said, waving his hand dismissively. "Our Frodo, the hero of Middle-earth. Forgetful? Certainly. Clumsy? Absolutely. But ultimately reliable, like a half-broken cart that somehow makes it to market. Barely." Frodo forced a weak smile, his stomach churning. "Yeah, reliable. That's me." As they began the descent down Mount Doom, Gandalf muttered under his breath. "Left it on the kitchen table. Incredible. I suppose we're lucky he didn't accidentally leave the entire quest at home while he was at it." Sam, oblivious to the tension, broke into a cheerful tune. "Oh, the ring is gone. The job is done. We'll head back home and have some fun." Gandalf, in a rare moment of indulgence, joined in with a gruff baritone. "No more orcs and no more wargs, only peace and plenty of lard." Frodo trudged behind them, guilt gnawing at his insides. Every note of their song felt like a hammer to his chest. He could see them smiling, laughing, relieved, and it made him feel sick. The truth was still burning in his mind. The ring was sitting safely back in the Shire, untouched, and it was all his fault. As Gandalf and Sam's voices echoed through the barren wasteland, Frodo's thoughts turned dark. He would have to go back, alone. He couldn't let them find out. He'd retrieve the ring, sneak off, and finish the job properly. Maybe then the guilt would stop eating him alive, if he remembered to bring it this time.